this is Karin from the Huntley Library, and today we're going to be making pumpkin donut holes. Here is our list of ingredients. 1 1/4 cup all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon ground ginger, 1/4 teaspoon ground allspice, 1/4 teaspoon ground cloves. And for these ingredients, if you want to substitute 1 teaspoon pumpkin pie spice plus 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, you can do that instead of all of these. 1 egg, 1/3 cup of buttermilk, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1 tablespoon unsalted butter melted, and 1/4 cup pumpkin puree. So gather all of these ingredients together. Our donut holes will also have a topping. So these are the ingredients for the toppings. 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter melted, 1 cup of granulated sugar, and 2 to 3 tablespoons ground cinnamon. You can assemble these while they are baking, so put this off to the side. For our first step, we're going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. I have got mine going already. And we're going to grease a 24 cup mini muffin tin. So hopefully you have a mini muffin tin. You could also use a larger muffin tin if you don't have one for the mini muffins. Your baking time will probably need to be adjusted and you'll be filling fewer cups. So we're going to grease this pan with some butter. I have some butter right here that I'm going to use to grease the pan. If you don't like getting butter on your fingers, you could put your hand in a little plastic baggie. I'm just going to use my fingers to do this. So I'm going to take some of the butter, and it helps if this is softened a little bit. And then I'm just going to start greasing each of these little cups. And you want to do all of them, and you want them to be well greased so that your donut holes pop out easily. If you don't care so much about the shape of your donut holes and you don't mind making sort of like mini muffins, you could probably line them with liners too if that's preferable. So I'm going to let you grease your muffin tins as well, and then we'll meet back here in a few minutes and move on to the next step in our process. Okay, my muffin tins are all greased and ready to go, so I'm going to set this aside on top of my oven. And now we'll get on to step 2. Step 2, we're going to mix our dry ingredients together. So that's the flour, sugar, baking powder, salt, and all the spices, or the pumpkin pie spice plus the cinnamon that we gathered together in a large bowl. So move my butter. This is my flour. So that's 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. And then I've got my sugar. Here's a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. And I'm adding to that. Next I have a teaspoon of baking powder. So here's my baking powder. This can is nice because it has this lip on it right here, which will help you smooth out your spoon and make it flat. So there we've got our teaspoon of baking powder. Next is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Here's my 1/2 teaspoon measure, and I got some salt here. Careful with the salt, sometimes it comes out faster than you expect. Looks good. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We need a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. This is my cinnamon, labeled by a friend of mine just for me. Thank you. And I'm going to keep my cinnamon out because I need it for my topping later on. If you're someone who likes to clean up as you go, that's usually me. So that's a teaspoon of cinnamon. Then we need half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Here's my ground nutmeg. Ooh, we're down to the dregs here. So I have probably just half a teaspoon in here. Perfect. Time to get more nutmeg. Then we need a quarter teaspoon of ground ginger. I just got a new supply of ginger, so this should be nice and fresh and gingery. Here's my quarter teaspoon. And a quarter teaspoon of allspice. Here's my allspice. Quite a bit of allspice. And then a quarter teaspoon of ground cloves. So, also a nice brown spice. There we go. And like I said, if you have the pumpkin pie spice, you can just put in a teaspoon of that and half a teaspoon of cinnamon instead. Okay, and then we just need to mix the dry ingredients up. Oh, that spoon is huge. I want a slightly smaller one. Slightly smaller spoon. And we're just gonna mix those up together so they're all incorporated here in our dry ingredients. Evenly distributed. That's the phrase I'm looking for. And once you've done that, we can set this bowl off to the side and get ready for step 3. Okay, step 3. In a separate bowl, we're going to mix our wet ingredients together. So we're going to beat our egg and then add buttermilk, vanilla, and the melted butter to the mixture. So here's our separate bowl. And I've got an egg for us. Hello, egg. And then I'm just going to tap the egg gently on the side of the bowl to crack it open. And then we'll stick that in there. And I have a little whisk that I'm going to use to beat my egg. You can use a fork or a spoon, that's easier for you. And I'm going to add my buttermilk next. I managed to find this little half pint of buttermilk. I don't really use buttermilk for much, so if you want to get a small amount, this is available. You can also make your own buttermilk by adding some vinegar to regular milk, and that'll cause it to curdle a little bit and create the buttermilk. If you want exact proportions, I recommend Googling it. It is widely available on the internet. So that's my buttermilk, and here's my 3rd cup measure. Pour some of that in there. A 3rd cup exactly, in fact. And then I'm going to whisk that together too and incorporate it. And I melted my melted butter, a tablespoon of that, in the microwave for about 40 seconds. First I did it for 30 and then it needed a little bit more, so I added another 10. And it looks like it's pretty well melted. I'll add that in. Keep whisking it at this point. You don't want your eggs to cook. This isn't super hot because it's been sitting out for a little while. But if yours is right out of the oven or right off the stove or just freshly melted, you don't really want to cook your egg. So just be careful about that. Okay. And what else? And the vanilla. So I need, how much vanilla? 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So here's my vanilla extract. Pure vanilla extract. Do they sell impure vanilla extract? Ooh, it's coming out quick. Okay, there's a teaspoon of that. Put my vanilla away. Okay, and whisk this together. Okay, that is nicely mixed, so we'll set that off to the side for a moment and we'll move on to step 4. Step 4, we are going to add these wet ingredients to our dry ingredients and then mix them together until they are just combined. So we don't want it to be super well mixed or over mixed. So I'm pouring in my wet ingredients into the dry ingredients. If you feel like a lot of your wet ingredients are still sticking to the sides of the bowl, you can get a spatula out and kind of help them along into our mix. Okay. You might have noticed that there's no pumpkin in this yet. It's coming. You can see how it's just starting to come together here. I don't know that you could overmix this because it seems pretty dry to me right now. Should I reveal that this is the first time I'm making these? Yes, this is my first time, so we'll see if I have a Pinterest fail. I found the recipe on Pinterest and then tracked it back to its website so that I can share that with you. Okay, I think we are at the point of just mixed. And then we'll add the pumpkin and hopefully that will give us enough moisture to really get that mixed. Okay. Step 5, add pumpkin puree and then mix again until just combined. So here is our pumpkin puree. And I'm going to open up my can here. And we need a 1/4 cup of this. So I'm going to have some pumpkin puree left over. If you like this recipe, you could theoretically double it or triple it and use more of your pumpkin puree, or this is the time of year to make everything pumpkin, so you can find another recipe that you like that uses pumpkin puree. And here's my 1/4 cup measure. I'm going to need a spoon to get some of this pumpkin puree out. Bring my wet ingredients back and spoon some of this pumpkin puree in here. If you're good at eyeballing things, you could skip the measuring cup and just spoon some pumpkin puree into your batter. That looks pretty good to me. And then there's a little left on the spoon bowl. Okay. And more mixing. This spoon is starting to seem a little large and excessive here. Everything is sticking to it. Oh, here, that's better. As this gets incorporated, your dough should move a little bit more freely. But it does look like it's going to be a rather thick dough. I want to incorporate my remaining dry ingredients a little bit better, so you can see the little patches where they haven't completely been saturated with the wet ingredients. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm bringing back the greased muffin tin now for step 6. Here we go, step 6. Scoop about a tablespoon of batter into each muffin cup, and this should use up all of our batter, theoretically. We'll find out. So here's my tablespoon, which is a little smaller than the spoon that's in the bowl. And I'll just do a few of these Here's about a tablespoon full. Oh boy. It's 1, 2. That one worked a little bit better. Here's my trick for you. Maybe consolidate all of the batter at the far end of the spoon, the tip of the spoon for your tablespoon, so that you can easily slide it into the cup. And it stuck to my finger. And if you have batter left over after you've done this, you can go back and fill any cups that look like they're a little bit underfilled. So finish filling your muffin cups and we'll meet back here in a sec. Okay, my muffin pan is full, so I'm going to put these in the oven, and a baking time is 9 to 10 minutes. So step 7, bake for 9 to 10 minutes until the donut holes spring back when they are touched. So at that point, I'm going to use a fork to touch them because they will be very hot as I'm taking them out of the oven. And hopefully I'll be able to show you what that looks like. So here they go into the oven for 9 to 10 minutes. And while you're waiting, you can do a step 7.5, which is clean up all of your unused supplies and dirty bowls and cups and stuff like that. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back in about 10 minutes and test our donut holes. Okay, I've just taken my donut holes out of the oven, and I am testing them with this fork, and you can kind of see that it bounces a little bit. So I'm going to say that these are probably done, and I'm going to give them maybe 20 minutes to half an hour to cool, and then we'll add the topping. So let your donut holes cool, and then we'll meet back in just a few minutes. I just wanted to show you quickly how easily these are coming out of the muffin tin, which is a relief. It's always disappointing when they stick to everything. So these are just sliding right out, which means we greased them really well. Yay. So I hope yours are also coming out this easily. Okay, we're back. Our donut holes are nice and cool, and we're going to dip them now in some melted butter and then the topping. So to refresh your memory, these are our topping ingredients. We have 5 tablespoons of melted butter, and I've got that pre-melted over here. That bowl's still hot. We need a cup of granulated sugar, which I've got in this bowl here, and then 2 to 3 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. So I guess it's up to you. How cinnamony do you like your toppings? So I'm going to go midway with that. Maybe. I don't have a whole lot of cinnamon left. It might just be 1 tablespoon of cinnamon for me. So here's my toppings bowl, and I'm just going to pour some cinnamon here. Okay, that's about a tablespoon, and then I have almost a tablespoon left, so time to get more cinnamon too. That's exciting. I get to have all fresh spices now after we've made these donut bites. Okay, so I'm just gonna incorporate that together so it's nice and evenly mixed and not all cinnamon or all sugar. All cinnamon would be kind of hard to take, I think, as a topping without a little sweetness. My mom used to mix up cinnamon and sugar like this to put on toast in the morning, and that was really good too. So if you don't want to go to the trouble of making pumpkin donut holes, then you could just mix up some sugar and cinnamon and have it on toast, and you'll have something similar without the pumpkin. Also good for people who don't like pumpkin. Okay, so that looks pretty well mixed. Pretty well mixed. I'm unsatisfied, as you can tell, because I continue to mix. All right, pretty well mixed. Okay, so we're going to dip our donut bites, donut holes, into the butter and then into the mixture, and then I'm going to put them in this empty container for storage. I will try one too. You can see that they're a little bit more muffin shaped and a little bit less round, but that's okay. They'll be delicious anyway. So I'm dipping. My butter cooled down enough too to do that, and now I'm putting on my topping and dipping. You're going to do this for all of them unless you have eaten one already to see how they taste, and that's totally fine. Really, what doesn't taste good when dipped in melted butter? And well, depending on what it is, sugar or melted butter and garlic is good. Melted butter just helps many things taste even better. Okay. Here's a close-up. Okay, I'm going to do the rest of mine and then I'll show you what they all look like when they're done. Okay, we're back. Here are all of my donut holes rolled in their topping. It's like an all-overing. I don't know why we're calling it a topping because it went everywhere instead of just on the top. And then here's what I have one cut open. Here's what they look like on the inside. I know we should try one and see how delicious they are. Okay, here comes the real test. We're going to try one and see how they are. Okay, so here we have very cinnamony and buttery with just a slight hint of pumpkin, but very good. I hope yours turned out really delicious too. For more fun ideas and crafts and things that you can do, check out our website, www.huntleylibrary.org. And thanks for making pumpkin donut bites with me today.